great email that came in from somebody who feels guilty every time they take their kids to their ex. It's something that a lot of people face when they've gone through a divorce, especially in the early years. And every time they take their kids to the ex, they get this guilt trip on and they can't really explain it. And the email goes into some detail. Let's jump into it. Hi Nikos. I love your guilt videos. Thank you. I think you are spot on with a lot of what you are saying. I'm a mom with 2 kids. I always feel guilty leaving them at their dad's. Is that normal? I don't think it's normal, but a lot of people experience it, so we could say it's normal from that regard, but it's something we need to work on. I've dealt with it for the last 5 years, but I can't seem to get over it. I've seen help, but nothing. I have found myself spending more time with my business and dealing with trying to give them everything since their fathers doesn't do anything for them. I feel like I do everything, but the guilt still remains. What do you recommend? All right, so let's put this into perspective of some commonality that I see with people that have businesses or have, careers that are taking away a lot of time, and how this plays out in this guilt you're feeling. The commonality or the theme in these situations is always something similar, where you are the parent that's trying to overdo and not focusing on what's important. I'm not saying focusing on your business or your career and making sure you can provide for your kids on everything they need. I'm not saying that's not important. What I'm saying is, are we spending too much time focused on that instead of being focused on that quality time you have with your kids? It's difficult to say 100% what you're going through or what emotions you're experiencing, but one of the things that I noticed was you popped up with this idea behind, you're trying to do everything, so you're clearly trying to do anything you can to make sure that you don't feel guilty, with the exception of spending that time, that quality time. It's that time where you put your business aside and for 2 hours a night you spend it with your kids, not worrying about what's happening in the outside world, just worrying about making sure they feel the love. Kids can feel it. They can feel the stress. They can feel what's happening with the parents. They can understand it, and then they don't really communicate anything about it, but a pullback occurs. So typically when 2 people separate and there's kids involved, well, there's a battle of the parents on who is the better parent, and what ends up happening is they start doing more and more in order to win the love. And the reality of that comment, if somebody's in that situation, the kids just want to feel love. Do they necessarily need everything? No, they don't need everything. They don't need 3 iPads. They don't need McDonald's 5 times a week. They don't need, the high expensive lifestyle everybody's trying to provide for the kids these days. They don't. What they need is love. They need a hug. They need to spend time together. That's what they need. In your situation, yes, you're stating that their father is, not providing anything and no support. And yes, you have to go do the things you need to do, but the reality of it is, does 1 hour really change anything, or 2 hours or 3 hours? Does it change anything from what you're trying to do? I've worked with people who have been through the situation, and even close friends. They've battled it out, and they always felt guilty in these situations. They felt like when they were handing off the kids for the weekend or the week, they were kind of like, oh my God. Like, I can't believe I screwed up my life so much. I screwed up my marriage. I can't believe I'm in this position. I can't believe my life has come to this. And the guilt trip picks up, and it's just this crazy negative narrative that starts in their heads. And they have to be reminded of the situation and what's the logical approach that needs to happen right now. What I would be doing is analyzing my emotions. What is happening through the week, through the days, and through the hours? How old are the kids, and how much time are you spending with the kids? What is actually going on? I would look for that pattern of when these emotions are starting to happen. I am a patterns guy. I always look for patterns. And when I start finding the patterns, I know there's a habit somewhere. And when I find that habit, now I can work to changing that habit in order for myself to really build on something that is a foundation. Don't get me wrong, it's harder than I'm saying. It's super hard, and it's a continual practice. And when you're looking at yourself and what's occurring, the first thing that I always ask parents who are, they'll call me about their business, and then I ask them, well, what's your family life like and what's going on? And they'll be like, well, I spend time with my kids, but it's not enough. And then I ask them, is it quality time? And the answer is usually, yeah, no, maybe. It's never a solid yes. And the question is, are you spending a quality time with them for the amount of time you're spending? Thirdly, I'd ask myself, okay, what have the counselors been telling me? What have I been doing? How does this all fit together? What are the things I need to start really placing a higher value on? Am I placing value in the right things? What are my values? And then I would look at my purpose, and that purpose is a solid foundation of where you should be starting. What is my purpose outside of the kids? Of course, is it my business? Is it my career life? Is it my my happiness of what I want to be doing with the future and what goals I want to achieve? Is it variable goals, or is that one big thing that you want to hit? How much time are you spending on everything, and are you allocating your time appropriately? Is it all based on those values? Then what I want you to do as you're observing all this, how often are you making your decision based on these values? Each and every decision you make. How often is it based on that integrity we have? Or is it more an emotional base? Because I can tell you that the more guilty you feel, the more emotional decisions you're making, and the more you are hurting your chances of getting out of this guilt, this negative narrative you have, and getting back into that positive side of things that your kids need to be seeing, not the negative side. What will end up happening is a new habit will be formed as you go through this process, because you'll start seeing certain things that you don't like how they fit in the narrative, and you'll start changing them. And this is something that you should be going back and talking with your counselor to see what they have to say, because they probably will give you the opportunity to see things that you're not actually seeing. And if you're seeing, a medical doctor and they're, going through the steps with you, start implementing. Share all the information you have, but keep a track of it in order to be able to see that success you're looking for. Hit a like if you like what you saw, and of course, hit subscribe if this is your first time here so you don't miss future videos on establishing this awesome mindset to get moving in the right direction. And of course, leave a comment below, because clearly everybody's got a situation similar to this, and it's a little bit different. This is one aspect of how you could deal with what you're going through. So who knows, maybe if somebody's watching this, they can leave a comment below and share your story or share your opinion, because somebody might be watching it who's in a similar situation, and who knows, it might help save a life.